strength!
Then you negotiate with your body to find more strength, but don't you give up on me, Ron.
I've seen you run into a burning building and save people you don't even know, but you're gonna let your own marriage just burn to the ground.
You've done it again, Lord. You've done it again.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Ignite. Today we are super excited to have you all tune in because we have just visited with producer, actor, director of 9 successful Christian movies.
Within the Kendrick Productions, Alex Kendrick plays a vital role in writing, developing, and carrying out the ideas to their films.
We will be discussing the important questions of how his story developed and how he believes that God's hand is truly in everything.
With that being said, let's get into the episode.
So it's basically a house, regular kitchen. We have our favorites. So this right here, this is our answered prayers wall. And everything on here, every picture is a legitimate answered prayer for us that we're excited about. So this was in the movie War Room. Yeah. And then a lot of these pictures, we look around and we're reminded, this is what the Lord did here, this is what the Lord did here. You know, some what we would call miracles and things like that. So that we come over here and look at this and are reminded that God is faithful. Then if you come here, when we're doing a movie, what we like to do, we will put a color code on it. So if the scene is just information, you're introducing a character or something like that, that'll be white or yellow. If there is action and tension, that will be orange. Humor is pink. Emotion is a dark blue, inspiration is light blue. And so when we're writing all the scenes and we put them out, and then we get to the 1 hour mark, we keep going, then you get to the 2 hour mark, which will be about right here, 120 minutes, we can see how the audience should be feeling at any point in the movie. And so we can look up there and say, okay, there's way too much emotion or low point here. We need some humor or action or surprise or something. And so you can kind of see this roller coaster of how the audience is feeling, and then we want them to finish on an up meaning they're inspired, they're laughing, they're grateful, they're challenged at the end of it. And so this is our story wall, and normally it's full of these color coded pieces of paper that tell us how the audience is feeling.
So in all of your writings, that's done as a collective group. Yeah. How many people are in this room?
It starts with my brother Steven and I, and then as we get counselors and everybody to come help us, we end up maybe 6-7 people speaking into this. Okay. And you know, that we're with many counselors, there's wisdom, and so so we do that as well. So, but it usually starts with me and my brother Steven. Oh, wow. But anyway, so in this group, and Ed Griffinhagen is here with us, but in this group we meet every single week, and we pray in here, and we plan in here, and we strategize and work on the different branches that the Lord's allowed us to be a part of for Kendrick Brothers. So we spend a lot of time in this room. So I'll take you now to our edit rooms.
Oh, sweet.
I'm going to show you 2 edit bays. I'm going to show you where I edited War Room and where our team uses it, and then where I'm editing our current movie.
Oh, sweet.
And when we do a movie and we shoot it, we have a story wall. And we look at, okay, this is what's going on in this scene. And so what's important about this is as we look at it, we can tell, hey, if the movie's too long, what scene could we cut shorter or just eliminate from the movie? And so looking at this is for the Forge. And so you'll see a single pick from the scene in the movie Forge. And so we did a lot of work, shot a long time. Yeah. Wow. But so this is the movie The Forge, 2-hour movie, and it helped us to kind of sometimes move stuff around or make stuff shorter. And then the painful thing is if you ever have to cut a movie, you've written it, you've shot it and directed it, you've edited it, and then you have to cut it. That is hard. It's like cutting off one of your fingers.
So what is it you're currently working on?
So this movie I'm using DaVinci Resolve to edit on, and I have my script because this movie we're filming, we shot in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And so here is my script. The left side is in Brazil, is in Portuguese, and the right side is in English. Okay. So for every page, because the movie was shot in Portuguese, and I had some scenes in there, I had to learn my Portuguese for those scenes. And so we have the Portuguese and then we have the English, so I can track with every scene. And this was shot in Rio, and it was so beautiful shooting this movie. And we loved it. We worked with a Brazilian cast and crew. We had some of our team members down there too. And we shot it, and I'm excited about it coming out. And I can't wait for it to hit theaters next fall. Okay. And so this is the next one that'll come out before we shoot the movie Ruth.
Gotcha. I noticed in a lot of your original movies, they're set here in Albany.
Yeah.
Now you're going to Morocco, you shot in Brazil.
Yeah.
Like, what really opened your eyes to God leading you to shoot elsewhere?
Well, the invitation. And so Brazil reached out and said, we love your movies. We put them in Portuguese. Whenever you make them, we put it in our theaters in Brazil. And we've had a lot of people respond. Would there ever be an opportunity for you to shoot a movie in Brazil with a Brazilian cast and crew, and you train our filmmakers how you make movies that honor the Lord? We prayed about that. It was like, this is the right thing to do, to invest in not only another generation, but another country. And so we loved going down to Brazil and shooting a remake of Flywheel, our original movie that wasn't even in high definition at the time. We've remade that. Now it's called Ignition of the Soul, and we shot it, beautiful landscape with the best equipment, great actors in Portuguese. We shot it in Brazil, so it'll come out in theaters there and be released all over the world in different languages. Wow. But it was an honor to go down there and do that and train about 65 of their filmmakers.
Thank you so much for being able to sit down and have an interview with us.
Yeah.
We really appreciate your time. First question I have is, if you could tell your 10-year-old self what you're doing now, making movies, what would his reaction be?
Wow, excitement. When I was a kid, I wanted to tell stories. We didn't have a television for about 8 years of my childhood. So it was a big deal to go see a movie. And we always went to see family-friendly movies when we were young. Grew up in a Christian home. And I remember sitting there watching Swiss Family Robinson or Chariots of Fire, some of these movies that my parents would allow us to go see, thinking, I must do this one day. So if you had told me at 10 I would be able to do that, I would have been very excited. But my concept at the time, from a childlike view, was just do the Christian version of Star Wars, the Christian version of Mission Impossible, Indiana Jones, James Bond, you know, instead of asking the Lord for his ideas. And so there was some maturing that needed to take place.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have been very excited.
What's some of those ideas that God has given you for making your movies? Like, in what unique ways has God shown up in the scripting process?
Wow, that's a great question. So we've learned that there's a difference between a good idea and a God idea. I thought I was full of good ideas. And if you ask pretty much anybody, they'll have an idea for a movie. Or I think this would be a good idea, that a good idea. And that's probably the number one conversation I ever have if I'm out and about. Restaurants, Walmart, gas station, whatever it is, people will come up to me and say, hey, are you one of the Kendrick brothers? And I have an idea for a movie and it may be from God, you know? And that's happened a lot. And so pretty much everybody has a movie idea. But what we've learned is when you submit your ideas to the Lord and you say, God, you can change them, you can take them away from me. But Lord, if you've given me the desire to tell stories, make movies, point me in the right direction. And so that's what the Lord did. And when we learned, let's lay our ideas to the side preliminarily, and ask the Lord, what direction do you want me to go? He would always turn us in the direction. Usually it started off with a theme, you know, lordship or discipleship or biblical fatherhood, things like that. And we would start going down a path, and then he'd start giving us story elements. And so that's how we've made our films. So you seek the Lord first, and then he gives you the ingredients.
Yeah, with Flywheel, that making it for the community and not really seeing an end goal and seeing the impact that it had. What was it like crafting that first feature length for the community? For
our first feature film, I was an associate pastor of our church. My brother was also on staff, Stephen. And so I went to the pastor and I said, what if we made a feature film for the community? This is still me with that desire, saying I want to make movies one day. And he said, do you know how to make a feature film? And I didn't realize that there's 1,000 pieces that need to come together to make a feature film. To make a short video that you can shoot in a day is achievable, and you can become good at that. To make a feature film that you shoot over 3 months, that takes so much continuity and planning and 100, 130 people helping you, that it's just a bigger animal. And so I told the pastor I wasn't sure I knew how, but I really wanted to. So he said, this was an interesting conversation. He said, well, go pray. If the Lord is in it, we want to be in it. But if he's not in it, you need to let that, die, that desire die. And he said, you can't ask for money from the congregation. We're in a building program. We're already hoping they tithe and then give above that. Yeah. And so he said, but if the Lord's in it, he'll provide everything you need. So I went and prayed, and when the Lord gave me the concept for Flywheel, which was a theme of lordship, and God sent a family to me that I did not approach. They came to me and they said, the Lord's put something on our hearts to come help you with whatever you're working on. And I was like, are you serious? And they said, what are you working on? I said, I'm working on a movie, it's just for the community, it's small. And they said, what do you need? And I needed about $20,000 to buy the few lights, boom mic, camera, things like that. And so they gave it to me. And I went to the pastor and I said, I think I'm supposed to make this movie. He said, how do you know? And I said, well, here's the $20,000 I needed. And he was like, what? And so we made Flywheel, and it was very hard to make. And I learned that I did not know very much about making films. Funny example, we're shooting a scene on a Friday afternoon with 2 car salesmen in an office at a real car lot that belonged to one of the members of our church. So we're shooting the scene. The sun's going down outside. And so we shot half the scene, and I said, we're not going to be able to finish this. The sun's getting too low. It's obviously becoming nighttime. I said, come back on Monday. We'll finish this scene. So these are volunteer actors from our church. When they show back up on Monday, they're wearing different clothes. And I said, hey, where are the clothes you were wearing in the first half of the scene? And they said, why? And I said, your clothes can't change halfway through the scene. And they're like, oh, good point. And then I was looking at one of them, and I said, hold on, what's going on? What's going on with your hair? And he goes, well, I just got a haircut. And I was like, ah. So we learned that there's a lot of pieces, continuity, all those things that happen with a movie. It's a bigger beast to handle. So we fumbled our way through Flywheel. When we released it locally in our one theater, and we had to do a special arrangement even with our local theater, the news media local picked it up and it exploded, started selling out show times, and the theater kept it for 6 weeks. Wow. And we made the $20,000 back. And then Blockbuster picked it up, if you remember Blockbuster, and they put DVDs in all their stores nationwide, and we were just like, what is happening? And we started selling DVDs as fast as we could have them duplicated. Wow. And we ended up selling about 100,000. By the time Sony picked it up, we sold over 1 million. Wow. So the Lord had bigger things to show us and to do with it. What I would tell you is, though it was harder than I thought to make Flywheel, the one thing we did right is go to the Lord and say, Lord, would you show us what direction to go? Would you bless the work of our hands? Because we legitimately want to honor you. Mm-hmm. And I think the Lord was pleased with that. And so Flywheel exploded, and that set the stage for everything else.
Wow. That's really incredible that you were able to make that large of an impact while just relying on God for everything. You were mentioning that your crew has grown in size from, how many people were on the Flywheel crew?
Wow, maybe 12 to 15.
12. Now how many people were on the Forge?
About 130.
130. How has your impact been able to minister to the people on your crew as they've grown in size and as your production value has increased?
That is a great question, because it's exciting for us to think about that. We try to work primarily with Christian crew members, but not exclusively. We make sure that the department heads are fellow believers, because we start off every day before every scene praying together, asking the Lord for guidance, protection, His blessing, that His hand would be on it, that it would be very fruitful and minister to the people that watch the film. So we bathe it in prayer, and we try to honor each other in the process. We say, your ego has to stay home, or really your ego has to die is the better way to say it. And so we're going to work together, and each person is gifted in different ways. Let's honor each other when we make a movie. That's with the crew. The cast, we exclusively hire Christians. Okay. And so there are 95% Christians on the crew. But in every movie, we've had a crew member or two get saved, come to Christ, put their faith in Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. And that happens when they come to do the lights, the audio, whatever they're doing. And they're for 6 to 8 weeks, they're with 130 people who love each other and operate more as a family than a Hollywood crew. And then they say, I want to be part of something like this. And we're sharing testimonies, not forcing it on anybody, but sharing testimonies every morning. We start with prayer, we start with a devotional. And by the end, there's always been one or two that say, I want what you guys have. And so the crews have grown, but we also love, a different aspect of this, is investing in the next generation of filmmakers. So with every movie, about 20 members of our crew are college students or graduate students who want to study filmmaking as a ministry. And we pull them in and place them all over the crew, wherever they want to be, producing lights, audio, wardrobe, whatever it is, and we spread them all out, and they get to take the journey with us. And I love that, and many of them have gone on to make feature films since we started doing that.
That's super cool. I really like that concept of discipleship, and that's one of the main themes of The Forge. What was your favorite moment in filming The Forge?
Wow. I don't know that there's just one. I'll say this, one that touched me deeply. In The Forge, there's a group of men that are discipling younger men, and they meet together on a regular basis on the backside of a nice restaurant. There's a large room that they reserve, and they meet in there. There's about 12 of them, and they have the young men that each of them are discipling. And the main character in The Forge, the young man, his name is Aspen Kennedy. And Aspen, we met him. He's a young believer, and we auditioned him. He did a fantastic job in his audition, and we put him in this role. And Aspen told us, guys, I'm reading the script. This is almost my life. My father was not present while I was growing up. I was raised by my mom. And I had to get to a point where I recognized the only healthy father figure I'm going to have is God the Father, right? And so he's doing this movie, and there's a scene in The Forge where the men in this Bible study group that they call The Forge pray a father's blessing over him. This is just a scene in the movie. When they did it, Aspen was very emotional. And when we finished the scene, we excused the crew. Those men who are all believers stayed in there and prayed a legitimate father's blessing over Aspen in real life. Same thing that happens in the movie, except this time it was sincere and heartfelt, and he wept. He said, man, if every movie I do could be like this, that would be incredible. And so that was one of my favorite moments of The Forge.
That's awesome. Is there a moment where God has shown up in the most unpredictable way while on set? Because I know set can get crazy sometimes. Where has God shown up, whether through a forklift or some other way? How has God shown up on set?
Yep, you mentioned the forklift because that's one of our favorite stories. I'll tell that one, and then I could tell a couple more if there's time. We were shooting Fireproof. We're shooting in a small town that has a railroad track that goes through it, and the scene required a train to be coming while a wrecked car was on the track with 2 teenagers inside. The firemen come, they realize we got to get this car off the track as fast as possible. Here comes the train around the corner in the distance. It's 200 yards away, and the firemen realize these kids are going to get hit and die if we don't get this car off the tracks. Well, when we're filming the scene, it was in a very rural area, not many houses, and we had a pulley system with cables to pull the car off the tracks, but it wasn't working, right? And the pulley it was too bumpy. The wheels were all bent. We couldn't get the car off the tracks. We needed really more like a forklift. We didn't have one, and we're not near anything. And I'm thinking, Lord, I have rented these lights and cameras, and the fire department's working with us, the train company's working with us, and I have no forklift. And I don't really have the money to go find and rent one. We're spending money because we've rented all this stuff and daylight's burning. So I'm thinking, Lord, please. And so our crew got together, asked the Lord for a forklift. While we're praying and this is happening, one of the only houses that was there, an elderly man standing on the porch, looking off in the distance, watching us. You know, we're 50, 75 yards away from his back porch, and he's thinking, what's going on with him? He moseys on over and he goes, you guys got a problem? And we're thinking, we don't really want locals coming and just asking a bunch of questions while we're trying to figure this out. And one of the crew members said, well, we're trying to figure this out. We don't have a forklift to get the car off the tracks for this scene. He goes, well, okay, I'll go get mine. And he walks behind his house and drives a forklift around, picks up the car and says, where do you want it? The rest of the day, we didn't have a problem. He just put the car on and off the tracks as many times as we needed to film the scene. And the crew was stunned. They were like, we were just in a circle praying, asking God for a forklift. 5 minutes later, there's a forklift. How does that happen? Who has a forklift in their backyard? You know, I don't know anybody that has a forklift in their backyard. And that reminded us, the answer is not always throw money at a problem or worry. God knows where the forklifts are, right? And so the Lord showed up in a way that inspired all of us. And it was like he was helping us make the movie. And so that's one of the stories I love telling, because it was just mind-blowing to pray for a forklift and boom, there it is. I have a lot of stories. I could go all day. Fireproof, there was a man, traveling salesman, who went to a nearby city. He had started an affair. His wife did not know it. He goes to the nearby city. He says, I'm going to be gone 3-4 days doing sales and everything. He secretly meets this woman. They go to the movie theater in her city, and they decide to watch Fireproof, not knowing what it was about. And they're sitting in the theater watching this story about a husband and wife that learn what biblical love is and how to honor one another. And he's so convicted watching this movie. He walks out of the movie theater and turns to her and says, we can't do this anymore. I need to go home to my wife. And she goes, you're not going to break it off with me or I'll call and tell your wife. He says, I'm going home to tell her myself. Wow. He says, I think we need to end this. Wow. And he goes home, he tells his wife, she hits the ceiling initially. And, but as he repents and turns to the Lord and says, I will do whatever it takes to honor God with my marriage, she slowly saw that he was serious. They ended up going to counseling and they renewed their marriage, rededicated it to the Lord, and they came to our church to tell us their story. Wow. When you see fruit like that and repentance, healing, people turning back together in a way that honors the Lord, that is priceless to us. That's the kind of thing that you can't put a price on, that we love to see what God does.
I love how your movies are different than the rest in theaters. And you could tell while watching the movie that this is not necessarily mass media focused. It's not for the regular, I'm trying to think about phrasing. It's not for just anyone coming to consume media. Right. It's they're wanting to give back.
Yes.
What is, if you could boil it down to one feeling while walking away from the theater that your movies are trying to give, what would that be?
Yeah, that's a great question. We often start when we're making a movie with the end in mind. What I mean by that is we ask ourselves, how do we want people walking out of the theater? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? And, you know, we will all stand before the Lord one day. And I want to stand before the Lord and him say, Alex, I gave you the opportunity and even a level of gifting to tell stories to draw people to me, and you did it. That's what I want to hear him say, well done. Yeah. And so we start with the end in mind. And my goal is not to just entertain people even more. My goodness, we're saturated with entertainment at every direction. And so if I can tell stories that are engaging to watch, enjoyable to watch, but that encourages them to take a step of faith, encourages them to get right with the Lord or right with other people, to forgive, to walk in love, that's what I want to do. And so if people finish the movie saying, wow, that encouraged me, inspired me, made me want to go deeper in my faith with the Lord, get closer to him, that is a priceless result. That is something that on my deathbed I will be grateful for, instead of, hey, I won this award or that award, which really is very short term. People forget what you won and it really doesn't have that much value. So at the end of the day, if If I can stand before God and a lot of people are either there or were introduced to the Lord or encouraged in their faith, I will do that and let the Lord tell me whatever he wants to tell me.
Yeah. Is there a particular script that in writing affected you personally the most?
Wow, all of them did. I'll say I remember being convicted while making Courageous because I'm the father of 6 children. They were young in my home, and we're making Courageous, which is about the father taking seriously the mantle of being the spiritual leader of their home. And I was, like many guys, going home in the evening, even though I worked in ministry, turning on ESPN, watching 2 or 3 hours of it, hugging my kids, eating dinner together, and they go to bed. And the Lord said, Alex, if I'm first in your heart and I'm the priority, why don't you spend your evenings pouring into your kid in a way that helps them grow in their faith instead of just watching ESPN? I'm not against ESPN, but I turned it off, and we went through over 7 years every word of the Bible together as a family, reading it casually in the evenings, and our kids grew to love it and expect it and look forward to it. So in the evenings, 4 times a week, 5 times a week, we would read a chapter or 2, and they would ask questions. And this is not rocket science. This is just, hey, Dad's reading about David and Goliath. Dad's reading about Jonah. Dad's reading about Joshua. And they would ask questions, and we'd read together and learn together. And so being able to help my children fall in love with the Lord and fall in love with His Word at a deeper level, that impacted me greatly more. And this is a result of me making a movie about a father doing this. Yeah. And so Courageous impacted me very deeply.
I like the scene in The Forge where they all come together, and I recognize the police officer from Courageous come. Yeah. What was that like, getting all of the casting, the cast back together from different movies? What was that like? Yeah,
so The Forge, if anybody hasn't seen all our movies, The Forge has a lot of the actors and people that have been in our previous films. And so in the Forge group, you have, Cameron Arnett, who was an Overcomer, Ken Bevel, who was in Courageous and Fireproof. There's some others in there as well. Mm-hmm. Even my son is one of the young men being discipled in that scene. And we loved doing that. Priscilla Shire, who was in War Room and Overcomer, is also in The Forge. Mm-hmm. And we are so grateful. And these are people that love the Lord. Mm-hmm. And so to do this movie with them, you're not only working on something that should outlive us if the Lord tarries, we're really excited and blessed to always work together. And it's fun. We laugh a lot. We pray a lot. We eat together. And it's just fun making a movie.
This was a great episode to film and see the inside stories of what it takes to make a movie happen. Thank you all for listening, and we hope you enjoyed it.
This is only part 1, so be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can see our upcoming episodes.
Also, check out the resources linked down below for Bible studies. We're glad you tuned in. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on
Ignite. And come back for part 2.